Hey, Barb, guess what? It's 10 Minutes with Barb and Ron. I'm Ron Rogers from OCALI.
And I'm Barb Green. And, you know, if they watched our previous episode, we left with a cliffhanger. We had Missy Emler with us last time, and we were like, this is such deep conversation. We need to keep going with it. So we are going to keep going with Missy Emler from Wisconsin. And Missy, if you can just kind of remind us of your final statement that you made at the last video, in case, you know, some people didn't see that one. You kind of dropped a bombshell on us.
Yeah, it is sort of a bombshell. And it's relatively new thinking for myself and the team, the Wisconsin UDL team. But ultimately, we often start our professional learning with compare and contrast achievement and learning. And the reason that we do that is because we have known for a long time that we want to shift the focus in a universal design for learning world from achievement to learning. And as we have asked that question and done that work with so many schools, it has become apparent and necessary to say that achievement in and of itself is an exclusionary practice. The celebrating of achievement is a necessary yet exclusionary practice, because achievement sorts kids and people. And so it is about who can and can't and who does and doesn't. And we believe in a universally designed world that we need to put the celebration on learning. And in learning, everybody learns. So that is something that is, I think, a little bit hard to sit with, because most of the work that's happening in education, even in a post-pandemic world, has a focus and an emphasis on achievement, and we're trying to close achievement gaps. And I think that we create the gaps that we close. So we're trying to close. So we're never going to close them, because we set the standard. Mm-hmm. If the standard was learning, there'd be no gaps to close. There it is.
So, you know, when you said that before, it just got me thinking. And there are two things, I guess, that I want to keep going with this and pick your brain on. You know, you work at a state level. And so the states have this requirement to judge, evaluate how the system is working. And it is set up to measure achievement as that measure of how we're doing in schools. So I kind of wonder how you think that might change what states do, or how could we prompt that change, you know, to get this focus on learning. So that's one question. And then the other one, and then I'm just going to let you go because you are masterful at just taking this. The other one is really what you're talking about is growth, you know, like celebration of growth, regardless of where a student or learner starts and where they finish. You know, that's our goal, is to just keep growing them as learners. And so I'm going to throw those two thoughts. That's what hit me when you said that. And I'm just going to let you roll with that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll start with like the State Department. And I think it's really important to understand that the State Department is responding to legislature and laws that are in place by elected officials, which is all fine and good. And the field often uses the State Department as the barrier for a change. We are responding to what the State Department elevates or prioritizes. And the State Department is setting those pieces because of their legal obligation for free and appropriate public education. So I just want to clarify that this is really, you know, we may not be able to change that all the way through. However, learning and achievement are not mutually exclusive. We've had a focus on achievement for a really long time, and we have static scores. Even during the pandemic, for those states that tested, those scores remain the same. They didn't dip as you would think. They stayed the same. So we have an opportunity to say, well, we've done this, and this is not working to close the gaps we're trying to close, but we've never experimented or tested shifting the focus to learning and seeing what it has, because they're not mutually exclusive. When you learn, you will likely achieve. It's just a matter of putting the focus on learning so that we don't sort those who can from those who can't, those who do and those who don't. We absolutely want to celebrate the learning of all learners. And so then the equity focus that most of our states are like, in our state departments of education, we're celebrating and elevating equity work, and our legislatures, depending on where you are in the world, is like fighting about equity, just the language of it. So let's just take a pause and put the focus on learning and see where it comes. And really, nobody can argue with the purpose of school is learning. But that's not what our focus has been. We've just never taken the time to dissect it very much. And also, going back to the legislature and just making this happen, it has to do with public perception, public expectations, public experiences. So in a time of the pandemic, there's lots of things, getting kids to come back to school. I have high school kids, and they're questioning a lot of things, but anyway, they still go. But we live in a small rural area. If they're not there, they're noticed. In our urban areas, we have a difficult time getting kids to come back to school. And so we have an opportunity to change what the experience of school is if we take it. And one last thing. The reason that the experience of school needs to change is because of the connection to the socio-emotional well-being of our learners. And I'm quite tired of the blame for the socio-emotional learning needs of our learners to be on the pandemic and on all these external factors. And at some point, we, the field, needs to take some level of responsibility in acknowledging that our focus on achievement is potentially a contributing factor, as well as all of the external factors, because we are only celebrating those who can and do certain things that we regard as important, irregardless of what the learner really expects and wants for themselves. And we have to take responsibility for that. And we do that in one full swoop of shifting the focus from achievement to learning in our schools.
Wow.
Yeah. I had to take a big breath.
Me too. Me too. I'm taking a big breath.
You know why everybody's kind of really concentrated in on this? You mentioned legislators several times. And I don't know, Barb, if you were thinking this, but I was thinking if our legislators in Ohio would just take the time before their session begins to watch 10 minutes with Barb and Ron, that might help with a lot of the things going on in education.
Missy, you are going to change the world one state at a time, right? Like
I'm hoping.
That's what I love about people who love UDL is like pushing all of our thinking in a very safe space. That's what UDL is all about. So I've thought about this minimally, I guess, but this part about achievement in and of itself, sorting kids, you put that so succinctly because, honestly, I've worked with students with disabilities for years. Everybody that watches this show knows that. And when those award ceremonies come around, it breaks my heart, because there are very few of my learners up there on that stage. And so thank you for doing what our good UDL community does, which is helps us think about some of these things in a very raw and honest way. And I appreciate your thoughts today.
Thank you. It is a really raw way, but I think you're absolutely right when you say that the rawness, when it happens in the safe space, in the safe container of universal design for learning, it is safe because the focus is on learning. And so my mantra in life, and we can end on this, but my mantra in life is, I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to learn. And that's very safe.
Very safe.
With that, Ron's out.
And Barb is out. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
YouTube, please subscribe. Like, comment, and share.